Okay, so a couple years ago, I got myself this guy right here. This is a Surefire RC3 suppressor. So I'm taking it to the range, I'm shooting it, having a good old time with it, and it starts to get kind of stuck at the end of the gun, but I'm able to get it off by hand, which leads me to wonder, what happens when this does get eventually carbon locked? I know Surefire says that the Surefire SOCOM suppressors aren't supposed to get carbon locked. We all know that's bullshit. They do get carbon locked. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I shoot this off, like Surefire quote unquote says it's supposed to do, it could damage the vents here at the end for the reduced back pressure system. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to damage my very overpriced suppressor. So I reach out to Surefire and say, hey, I can't shoot this off. It might damage the end cap. How am I supposed to get this off in the event that it gets carbon locked? And to my surprise, they reached back out to me with this email saying, it is not recommended to shoot off any of your Surefire suppressors, as you can greatly increase the risk of inducing a baffle strike. Doing so will avoid any warranty associated with your muzzle device and suppressor. In the unlikely event your suppressor becomes carbon locked, we suggest firing enough rounds to heat up your suppressor, then taking a strap wrench to your locking collar, making sure the release tab is engaged, and turning it until you're able to break free. If you are able to break the locking collar free but cannot remove the suppressor, use a rubber mallet and tap on the back of the locking collar towards the muzzle until the suppressor can be removed. The best way to prevent carbon lock during an extended raid session, we suggest removing your suppressor every 200 to 300 rounds and then re-indexing your suppressor on the muzzle device. This will help break up any carbon that is built up in the muzzle device and locking collar mating surfaces of the suppressor. Well, that's weird because I have seen time and time again you can shoot it off. Plenty of videos saying it.
Center can, downrange.
Hey, pedo, suck my tube.
Plenty of forums saying it. So I'm thinking to myself, well, where does this come from? This myth must start somewhere. So I sent another email to Surefire. This is probably about a year later. I sent another email to Surefire asking them where this came from. I said, hey, is this from influencers or is this from military or something like that? Or did you guys ever actually recommend to shoot it off? And this is what they replied with. What you reference is not entirely true, but not completely false either. That being influencers and the military saying to shoot it off. The removal discussion stems from an influencer's Instagram demonstration and follow-up comment correctly noting that the procedures does not appear in a SOCOM user manual. So, yeah, it was never in any RC2 manual, never in any RC3 manual, never in any original RC manual. It was only ever referenced in legacy suppressor manuals. Not sure if it was a 212K ARSS, which are some of Surefire's legacy suppressors. And our demonstration was likewise with the legacy suppressor. So what that sounds like is when Surefire did demonstrate that, hey, you can just unlock the collar and pop it off. It'll be fine. It was done with legacy suppressors that were probably mainly for the military or law enforcement. The internet has since generalized the guidance beyond its context. The core issue is that firing a round through an unsecured suppressor can let the can shift and the bullet exits, so both are effectively in flight at the same time. So whenever you fire a round, bullet exits the muzzle device. You'll have that pressure, which will cause the suppressor to dislodge itself. And as the suppressor starts to move downrange, there might be a bullet within the baffles. And that's why Surefire doesn't recommend it. Also, there's also probably a bunch of dumbasses who are going unsecuring their collar and just shooting off their can just for the fuck of it. It wasn't actually carbon locked. It was shifting on the end of the barrel. It probably drooped down a little bit and they blew out their baffles and sent off to Surefire. You guys said I could shoot this off and I did it and it blew out my end cap. Will you guys warranty this? So Surefire probably got tired of repairing people's suppressors for that reason. For these reasons, we do not recommend this approach except as a true last resort. So yeah, it turns out it was from military instruction and from influencers saying that they could do it. Now, Surefire didn't specify which influencer it was, but I remember in Grantham's RC2 video, he says that you can shoot it off. Now, I go through and watch his video, and I can't find anywhere in there where he says you can shoot it off. But also, I noticed around the time when he's taking on and off the suppressor, there's very obvious cuts where the suppressor's on the gun, it cuts, and it's off. That's because back a couple years ago, YouTube got a big stake up their ass about taking on and off suppressors. They said it was modifying weapons and was against their terms of service and were banning people for it. So Grand Thumb must have edited his video to cut out removing and adding suppressors. So I thought, I wonder if there's an archived version of this video and if I can go back and see if it has that clip in there. I do some digging and I find an archived version of his video that has the clip of him saying that, yes, you can shoot it off. I'll play that now.
So there is another really interesting aspect to the Surefire suppressor. Suppressors will lock up. It's just going to happen. Any locking mechanism, it will occur on any type of suppressor mechanism. So with the Surefire suppressor, in emergency situations, if your suppressor locks on, all you have to do is unlock the collar and you can fire a live round and it will launch the suppressor off and it will break it off the mount. There'll be no damage. The suppressor is meant to do it. It does look kind of dramatic, so it's always fun to do. So I've unlocked the collar. We have a live round loaded right now. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna shoot that suppressor off. So Micah, if you wanna go ahead and aim down range and watch this baby go. Ready?
Send it.
So as you can see, we have launched our suppressor off. We can go check it out if you guys wanna come with me. There's going to be no damage to the suppressor. They're meant to do this. There's no baffle strikes or anything like this. It's just a part of something that Surefire designed to ensure that if it did get locked up out in the field, that you could easily shoot it off. Again, just something that you can do in a pinch. Kind of a cool thing about the Surefire suppressor and the way it locks. So there we have it, shooting off that suppressor.
So as you can see, if you do have a hard carbon lock with a Surefire suppressor, you can simply shoot it off, and it is designed to do that.
So I'm not sure if Grand Thumb edited that part out to comply with YouTube's rules. I don't believe so because it doesn't show him taking off the suppressor except for the second he shoots it. And if he wanted to comply with YouTube's terms of service, he would just cut that part out real quick. What I think might have happened is Surefire reached out to him and said, hey dog, this isn't how you take off the suppressor. It damages it, it voids the warranty. We do not recommend this. At that point, it was too late. Everybody had already seen it. I seen it. And everybody believes that the proper way to take off an RC suppressor is to shoot it off. So, yeah, you can do it, but it's probably not the best way to do it. If you can avoid it, don't do it. If you're dealing with a stock suppressor, we can guide you on alternative methods. In summary, can it work? Sure, but there's a risk. So yeah, you can do it, but it's probably best not to do it. You probably don't want to launch your fucking suppressor downrange and have the risk of blowing out your baffles when there's other ways of getting it off if it gets stuck, like Surefire recommended. I will say, I don't think their method of removing it will work if you have this flush, like with say you have a Mark 18 and the locking collar is flush with the end of the rail. You're not going to be able to get a rubber mallet in there and tap that off. Lots of people are running longer rails that push all the way up to the muzzle device to get as little of a gap as possible between the end of the rail and the suppressor. So that might not work for everybody. So you might have to shoot it off. If you do have to shoot it off, it's probably best to do it with a blank so you don't run any risk of blowing out your baffles. So I'm actually going to try Surefire's way of removing the suppressor if it's carbon locked. I have my RC3 on here. It's pretty good in carbon locked. I can still move it, but that bitch ain't coming off right now. I've shot probably 500, 600 rounds through it without taking it off. So, all right, let's see if it works. All right, so I'm here at my workbench. Got my rubber mallet. Let's see if this works. Now, I haven't had to actually use a strap wrench to remove the locking collar. I was able to get this off by hand. this locking tab does tend to get stuck, but I've never actually had the locking collars seize up to where I couldn't get it off. So it's going to be a little bit awkward. I don't have a good way of holding this rifle. So I'm just going to flip it upside down, just tap on the end. Cool. Yep. Seems to work just fine. No risk of actually damaging your suppressor. And you can get it off nice and easy. Alright, if you have any other questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll be happy to ask. Alright, that's about it. Thanks.